Hey, what's up, guys? So today I'd like to share with you a very sad and unfortunate experience which happened to my 30-year-old 1994 Mazda MPV minivan, which I've owned for the past 13 years, and I've never been this attached to anything I've ever owned, and I've never had this many experiences with anything I've ever owned. I've gone on like 8 road trips all over the country with this. I drove as far as from California to Miami, Florida. I also drove to Canada with this. And I put a total of 80,000 miles on it. I bought it with 163,000 miles, and now it's about 244,000 miles. But basically what happened is a few weeks ago, I started getting a loud valve lifter tick, which I've had experiences in the past with it, like on cold startup, but once it would warm up, the sound would go away. And then sometimes it would just always stay constant, and I remedied that with experimenting with different viscosity of oil, and I finally found the perfect weight to remedy that. And these are hydraulic valve lifters, by the way. But even after that remedy and finding the perfect brand and viscosity of oil, eventually that sound came back one morning, but it was slightly different because it was much louder than usual. In fact, it sounded like it was hitting the valve cover. And basically I drove it for a total of maybe like 30 miles over the course of a week with that very loud sound. And I checked the oil level, of course, and during those 13 years I've owned it, I've been, very mindful about how I maintain it. I do all the work and repairs on my vehicles and maintenance, and I do oil changes religiously every like 2,500 to 3,000 miles. If it's regular oil or synthetic, I do about every like 5,000-6,000 miles. And I use Wix or Purolator oil filters, which of course are much better than Fram in my opinion. But basically, after those 30 or so miles of driving with that very loud supposed lifter sound, which by the way I checked with a mechanic stethescope, and I heard the sound all along this head. I even put it up right by the timing cover. I didn't hear any sound here. But one day when I was driving it, all of a sudden it felt, no joke, like I got a flat tire. The whole car started shaking slightly, like you're, riding a donkey or a horse, and it lost power like big time. So I pulled over after like a block or two, where I was able to pull over safely on the busy street I was on, and it didn't shut off, but it just lost power big time, and it was making a really horrific loud sound. So right when I pulled over, I shut off the car, and make a long story short, I got it towed home, and the next day I tore into it. As you can see, I took off the valve cover and both timing covers, and this is what I found. The camshaft sprocket just completely shattered and got disconnected from the camshaft. And the timing belt surprisingly didn't completely rip. It's still on all of the pulleys. Of course, it's not completely on this because it's super loose, but the timing belt, it's still intact. None of the teeth on the timing belt got sheared off. All the teeth on the sprocket are still there. So I really could use your guys' help. What in the world do you think could have caused this? I really dug into this just so I can get closure and see if it's worth fixing or if I should just junk it. Basically, what I did is I took off both timing belt covers. I took off the valve cover and both of the rockers, which are right here, and the rockers seem normal. They move freely. There's not too much play in them. All the valves look like they're at the same level. Doesn't look like any of the valves are bent. I even used a level on all of them to see if they're at the same level. I put it on like this, and it wasn't like wobbling like that. They were all flush with each other. I inspected the lobes on the camshaft. They weren't rounded. They still had that oblong shape. All the timing belt pulleys, which I replaced 25,000 miles ago when I did this job, they're still intact and there's no play in them. They're not seized up. I mean, the belt is a little loose, but like, what do you expect? You know, look how loose this pulley is. So I'm pretty sure the tensioner for the timing belt is still good. And of course there's a bunch of oil, which is a damn shame because when I did this job I changed both camshaft seals and the crankshaft seal, so I have no idea where all that oil came from. But my only theory is that when I changed the camshaft seal, I was very careful to line them up with the marks, so I don't have any timing issues. But whenever I went to try to tighten the bolt with a ratchet, I was holding it with those rubber straps that you use to open jars. It would still get off mark, so I decided just to zap on the bolt with an impact gun. So my theory is maybe I could have over torqued it, and it caused a hairline crack, which grew more and more over the course of 25,000 miles until this eventually happened. But I mean, when I did use the impact gun, I wasn't just like, you know, for like a few minutes. I just like zapped it on, and then you know, once you hear that sound that it's like tight, and I just probably like used the impact gun on it for like 5 seconds or so to make it nice and snug. And this pulley isn't made of plastic. This is, let me see, let me double check. Yeah, that's actually aluminum. The magnet's not sticking to it. But who knows? Let me know, guys, what you think could have caused this. I'd really appreciate it, so I can get some closure before I decide to junk this van. She's really a trooper because surprisingly, with 3 out of the 6 cylinders dead, it still starts up no problem, but once you put it in drive it does stall out. So yeah, this is my experience, guys. Hope you learned from it. If you ever change a camshaft seal, be careful not to over torque the bolt. Use a torque wrench and a good gear puller. And feel free to like, subscribe, and comment to this video. And I will throw in a little treat for you guys. When I do put back the valve cover and the timing belt cover, I'm gonna start it up again to see if it still starts, because the way I want to junk it is basically through the consumer assistance program in California, where they give you $1,500 if your car can start on its own power and move, I believe, a total of like 10 yards. So hopefully they'll be a little lenient and see that it can move a little bit. And yeah, wish me good luck, guys, and thanks for tuning in. All right, take care. Bye.